Inventing the Future, a photobiography of Thomas Alva Edison by Marfay Ferguson Delano. Genre: a biography is the story of a real person's life written by another person. Before you read, think about what you may already know about Thomas Edison. Question of the week: how do inventions happen? In 1868, Thomas Edison took a job in the Western Union Telegraph Office in Boston. He found the city an exciting place. Not only did it have a large telegraphic community, it was filled with inventors. One of them was Alexander Graham Bell, who, in 1876, would invent the telephone. Edison worked nights as a press operator and spent his days exploring the shops where telegraphs and other electrical devices were designed and made. Inspired by all the activity he found, Edison soon quit his job to focus full-time on bringing out inventions. He met with people who had money to invest and persuaded them to provide the funds he needed to develop his ideas and have his inventions made. He specialized in telegraphic devices, but he also worked on other inventions. When he was 22 years old, Edison received his first patent. It was for an electric vote recorder. A patent is an official document issued by the government that gives a person or company the sole right to make or sell an invention. Edison hoped the device would be used by state legislatures, but lawmakers were not interested in buying it. The experience taught him a valuable lesson. Never again would he invent something that people didn't want to buy. In 1869, Edison moved to New York City. Many telegraph companies, including Western Union, had their headquarters in the city, which brimmed with business opportunities for an ambitious young inventor. Edison worked for a while for the Law's Gold Indicator Company, where he repaired and improved the company's stock printers, also called stock tickers because of the noise they made. Stock printers were a kind of telegraph that sent minute-by-minute reports of the changing price of gold to stockbrokers' offices. Pictured here during his tramp telegrapher days, Edison preferred to work night jobs, which he said gave him more leisure to experiment. Anything that won't sell, I don't want to invent. Its sale is proof of utility, and utility is success. That fall, Edison started a business called Pope, Edison and Company, with a fellow inventor named Franklin Pope. They advertised themselves as electrical engineers who could devise electrical instruments and solve problems to order. The company offered a variety of services having to do with telegraph technology and was also committed to bringing out new devices, Edison's specialty. He patented a number of telegraphic improvements that were eagerly bought by the telegraph industry. Finally, he was inventing what people wanted and were willing to pay for. By the age of 23, Edison had earned a reputation as one of the best electrical inventors in the country, which helped him attract more financial backers. In 1870, his partnership with Pope broke up, and Edison opened his very own manufacturing company and laboratory in Newark, New Jersey. Edison hired more than 50 employees to make and sell his stock printers and other equipment, and to assist with his many experiments. Among the skilled machinists and clockmakers he hired were Charles Batchelor and John Crucy. A British-born machinist and draftsman, Batchelor soon became Edison's right-hand man, as well as his friend. They worked closely together for nearly 25 years. Crucy, born in Switzerland and trained as a clockmaker, worked with Edison for 20-some years. In the fall of 1871, 24-year-old Edison started his own news service, the News Reporting Telegraph Company. Among the company's employees was a pretty 16-year-old clerk named Mary Stillwell, a Newark girl whose father worked in a sawmill. Edison set his sights on Mary, and after a brief courtship, they married on Christmas Day, 1871. When the couple's first child was born, a daughter named Marion, Edison manufactured at his Newark factory and embellished with his name. Edison's universal printer, a stock ticker, was among his first commercially successful inventions. nicknamed her Dot, after the telegraph signal. Their second child, Thomas Alva Jr., was dubbed Dash, of course. The Edison's third child was named and called William. Soon after their marriage, Mary discovered that she played second fiddle to her husband's true love, inventing. He often spent several days straight at the lab, working through the nights and catching naps on a workbench or desktop when exhaustion overwhelmed him. Whenever Edison was involved with a project, he became totally wrapped up in it. And since he almost always had dozens of inventions going at once, he had little time for anything else. In Newark, Edison first developed the method of team inventing that would characterize the rest of his career. Whenever a new idea for an invention inspired him, he sketched it out in a notebook and then shared the drawing with Batchelor and Crucy, or other trusted assistants. Their job was to take the sketch and see that it was made into a working model. Edison's workers tended to be very loyal to the old man, as they called their young boss. They admired and respected him for the way he worked alongside them, plunging into the dirtiest jobs with enthusiasm and putting in longer hours than anyone else. Moreover, Edison could be generous. He often gave assistants who worked closely with him on an invention a percentage of the profits it made. Mary Stilwell, top, married Edison on Christmas Day, 1871. The couple had 3 children, Marion, middle, Thomas Alva Jr., bottom right, and William, bottom left. Negative results are just what I want. They're just as valuable to me as positive results. I can never find the thing that does a job the best until I find the ones that don't do. Although Edison's Newark laboratory focused mainly on devices that improve the speed and efficiency of the telegraph, other electrical inventions were also under development. One of these was the electric pen, which could create multiple copies of a handwritten document. Business owners, from lawyers to map makers, immediately saw the value of the device, and it sold well. Although Edison manufactured and sold many of his inventions, he also sold the patents for many others. This gave the buyer the exclusive right to make and sell a device. Despite the income this generated, Edison was usually short of cash. That's because he tended to spend most of what he earned from one invention on the next. In 1876, Edison sold his Newark business. He moved his family and about 20 of his best workers, including Batchelor and Crucy. The electric pen was among the inventions Edison developed and manufactured at his Newark facility. An advertisement for the device claimed that it could produce 5,000 copies from a single writing. To a small farming village in New Jersey called Menlo Park, located about 20 miles from New York City. There, he had a 2-story laboratory built to his design. Unlike most other labs of the time, which combined inventing with manufacturing, Edison's new laboratory was devoted exclusively to researching and developing his ideas. It contained well-equipped chemistry and electrical labs and a machine shop for making models of his inventions. Edison often referred to the place as his invention factory. He bragged that it would turn out a minor invention every 10 days and a big thing every 6 months or so. Edison and his muckers, as he fondly called his crew of fellow experimenters, lived up to the boast. Known as the Chief Mucker, Edison patented 75 different inventions in the first 2 years at Menlo Park. Among them was an improved version of Alexander Graham Bell's telephone. Genius is 1% inspiration and 99% perspiration. Edison, seated at center wearing a cap and scarf, and his muckers take a break in his Menlo Park invention factory. Among the projects he worked on there was an improved telephone transmitter. To find the material that would work best in it, Edison and crew experimented with more than 2,000 different substances, including rubber, ivory, tobacco leaf, and fish bladder. The biggest problem with Bell's telephone was that the sound it transmitted or sent was weak. A caller had to shout into it in order to be heard on the other end of the line. Edison felt sure he could not only find a way to make the telephone sound louder and clearer, he also could make it send messages over longer distances. Eager to gain the advantage in the budding telephone industry, Western Union hired him to do just that. Edison knew that improving the transmitter, the device that converts the sound of a speaker's voice into electrical signals, was the key to better quality sound. The challenge was to find the material that would work best in it. In 1877, less than a year after Bell's invention of the telephone, Edison discovered that tiny pieces of carbon encased in a small container or button gave the best results. Called the carbon button transmitter, the invention not only produced excellent sound, but greatly increased the range of the telephone. A version of it is still used in most telephones today. Paying customers listened through earphones to a recording in a phonograph parlor in Salina, Kansas in the 1890s. Edison manufactured phonographs with a special coin-in slot device for use in saloons and other places of entertainment. I had the faculty of sleeping in a chair anytime for a few minutes at a time. A taker of catnaps, since his days as a young telegrapher, Edison wasn't picky about where he nodded off. Here, he snoozes atop a lab table in his West Orange laboratory in 1911. While he was working on the telephone, another sound-related idea occurred to Edison. If the human voice could travel over wires, he reasoned, then there should be a way to record the sound so that it could be listened to later. In November 1877, Edison gave a sketch of an invention he called the phonograph to John Crucy and asked him to build it. A few days later, Crucy had a model ready for testing. A simple machine, it consisted of a hand-cranked cylinder covered in tin foil, a mouthpiece with a metal disc called a diaphragm, and a needle. With his muckers gathered around him, Edison turned the handle of the machine while he shouted a nursery rhyme into the mouthpiece. As the sound waves of his voice vibrated the diaphragm, the attached needle scratched grooves in the foil. When he finished reciting, he rewound the cylinder, put the needle into the tracks it had made, and cranked the handle again. To everyone's surprise, the machine worked the very first time. Out of the phonograph came Edison's voice, faint but clear. Mary had a little lamb. Its fleece was white as snow, and everywhere that Mary went, the lamb was sure to go. The excited experimenters stayed up all night recording themselves with the invention, which was the ancestor of modern CD players. The next morning, Edison took his brand new baby to New York City and dazzled the editors of Scientific American magazine with a demonstration. Word of the amazing invention spread rapidly, and Edison became a celebrity overnight. The phonograph's ability to reproduce human speech seemed like a miracle. Newspaper headlines proclaimed him the inventor of the age and the Wizard of Menlo Park. Edison, who enjoyed the attention the phonograph attracted, envisioned a variety of commercial uses for the device, including toys and dictation machines. He soon set it aside, however, to concentrate on the greatest challenge of his career, the development of an electric lighting system that could be used in homes and businesses. Electric lighting was not a new idea. Brightly burning lamps called arc lights, which glowed when a current of electricity jumped between two carbon rods, had already replaced gas street lamps in some large cities by the 1870s. But they were not suitable for home use. Not only